Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Kellam. I'm your host for Encounter today. Otherwise, why would I be here? Happy New Year to you. We are in the midst of the 12 days of Christmas, and so for this Encounter program, thought we'd talk a little bit about some of the music that moves us through the holiday season, both in melancholy and in merriment. Whether you've gone to the Binghamton Philharmonic to see the Nutcracker or their Home for the Holidays concert, we ventured over to Elmira to a Presbyterian church there to watch the Presbybop Jazz Group do their Jazz Noel. Of course, there are carols sung by congregations and carolers in the neighborhood still these days. If you work in a mall, maybe you're tired of hearing Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree or Jingle Bell Rock for the 417th time this week. But for the most part, the music is a part of the season. And if you took it away, it would be a pretty silent night and silent day for these 12 days of Christmas and the days leading up to it. And then New Year's. You know, you go to a New Year's party and music in the background is wonderful. A live band is even better. So to talk about music today during this still holiday period, I've invited Mike Carbone to be with us. There's no saxophone on the table in front of us, so we're going to be talking about music. We can't afford music licenses, and you're a lot cheaper without the sax.
I'll be a little out of my element as well.
Well, that's right. That's right.
I definitely speak better through my saxophone.
Well, I understand that musicians would rather play the music, perform the music, than talk about the music. But still, Director of Jazz Studies at Binghamton University, so you have to do some lecturing, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And let me see if I can get the rest of your resume here.
All right.
Miles Ahead is the jazz group.
Miles Ahead is the jazz quartet that I have, yes.
Right, and the Splash is?
Splash is a commercial group in town, which encompasses 7 musicians, including myself. My wife's the lead singer, and my brother-in-law, up until recently, Damien Cornwell, was the full-time drummer, but he's got a lot of businesses going on, so we just brought on a new drummer, Sean Kanazowicz. We have John Eichhoff, the owner of McNeil Music, Jim Wilding, who teaches guitar there. He has the Jim Wilding School of Guitar. Right. And another singer up front, Val Davis. And we're just a merry bunch, playing lots of holiday parties, and we do a fair amount of holiday music ourselves. And that, to be quite honest, whenever we do one of those holiday tunes during this time of the year, it really, you can see the emotion in people. They really love it. Right,
right. So that's, is it okay to call it a party band?
It's a party band. You can call it a commercial band, corporate band, whatever you want to call it. Parties, weddings, nightclubs, events, all that.
And you're also part of the Presbybop Jazz Group.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to be a part of the Christmas Eve band with Bill Carter and the Presbybop group. Al Ham is the primary saxophonist for that group, but during the holiday time, he's kind of passed that on to me. Right. And last number of years playing the Christmas Eve service down at the First Presbyterian in Clark Summit. It's really been an honor, and it's really morphed into something that is really embraced by the community. And we're even adding musicians to the mixture to make it even more interesting for the congregation. So.
And I want to come back to Presbybop because we want to talk about your work there with Dave Liebman doing this eco-jazz thing, which we've talked about on Encounter last year, I guess. All right, we're not finished yet. So you're also the director of the Jazz Studies program at BU, and that means that you're also the director of the Harper Jazz Ensemble.
That's correct. And I was also the previous coordinator of music at Johnson City School District, where I was a teacher for 35 years. Yep. And enjoyed my time there, my stay there, and I still stay connected by helping out peripherally with some of the financial parts of the musical, trying to help them raise dollars to keep that thing afloat. So.
Because music education is so much a part of, we spend a lot of time talking about athletics in schools, And certainly there's the academic program, but music education, my wife was a music educator for 3 years. For as long as she could stand it, she was a middle school music teacher back in Richmond, Virginia, and she wasn't trained to do that. She was a trained church musician, but that tied in very nicely with my seminary work. And it was any first-year teacher going in and trying to interest kids in music that wasn't what they were hearing on the radio was difficult.
Yeah, middle school can be challenging, but I mean, I taught both elementary, middle school, high school eventually, and university. But I really enjoyed middle school. I found the challenge rewarding, and it was great to work with kids who are beginning to become leaders in their own right after playing instruments since 4th grade.
Right.
By the time they get to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they're really starting to develop that ability to play and put some emotion into it. So that's always is exciting for me.
Yeah.
So.
And, I guess a few years ago, we were all worried that there wouldn't be any instrumentalists except guitarists and bass guitarists because everybody wanted to be in a rock band. But now, especially looking at the music program that you're involved with at Binghamton University, let's just talk about the Harper Jazz Ensemble for a moment. You go to this concert, and you have 2 of them, I guess, pretty much 2 major concerts each year.
We do 2 major concerts a year. We do some playing on and off campus throughout the year, but 2 major concerts a year where we bring in a guest artist from the professional jazz world to, work with the band, perform with the band. The kids get to experience not only some instruction, but some road stories and experiences that they would not normally get, and not meeting those people up close and personal. And getting to play with a top quality jazz musician is just a totally different experience.
Yeah.
I remember that experience for myself in college, and so Al Hom, who created the jazz program at Binghamton University, started that, and I've done everything I can to keep that going because it's a valuable experience, and it's great for the community because we get to bring in some people that would not normally pass through our corridor, which enriches the the culture here, and it gives the university some standing, I would assume, by having some of these jazz greats visit our campus.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the people who came when you were a student?
Oh yeah, when I was a student, we had Mary McPartland, we had Phil Woods, a number of just great jazz artists like that.
Mary McPartland was the piano jazz host on public radio.
Frank Foster. I mean, to get to play with these guys was great.
Yeah.
My first experience with a big band was my senior in high school. We didn't have a jazz band until we had a student teacher from Endicott College come and started one. This was the beginning of my senior year, and we were doing tunes like Jersey Bounce and Tuxedo Junction and stuff like that. And one day they called us down to the band room over the PA system, unbeknownst to us. And we walk into the room, and little did we know who we were looking at when we walked in, but it was the Ellington Big Band, which was under the direction of Mercer Ellington at the time. We're playing at the Stanley Theater, and somebody made the connection with bringing them down to the high school, which was right down the street. And so we got to sit amongst these guys while they played our tunes with us. I don't think I've been playing saxophone not even a half a year to a year. I was a flute player before that. And it was such a great experience. It was such a wow moment, you know. And I wish I knew who was in the band at that time.
Yes.
But I didn't know.
You'd have to go back and Google that.
You'd have to go back and Google all that. But it's a great experience, and I see that same kind of wonderment and excitement in the university students when they get to meet people like Rufus Reed or John McNeil or any of the Sherry Miracle from the Diva Big Band, even some people from our area that have gone on to be jazz greats themselves. It just brings a different perspective to the music. Yes, they are real people. They get up like everybody else in the morning, but they've worked really, really hard to have this talent and ability, which gets them the great success that they have on the road and in recordings and TV and everything else they do. And it's great that they come back and share that with our students, and it's exciting.
The thing that also impresses me is to look at the program for the concerts at the Anderson Center when you perform the evening concerts twice a year, and to look at the majors of the students. Because what this says to me is that they are musicians, but very few of them are music majors.
That is true.
And so these are folks who are going to carry their musical education into their adult lives, into their professional lives, probably playing for fun for the most part, but at least they have that foundation. And this is something that experiences they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I think the unique aspect of the Binghamton University music program, especially the Harvard Jazz Ensemble, and I know this is the same with some of the other ensembles on campus, is that the majority of the students in my ensemble are not music majors.
Yeah.
And they are very highly qualified musicians that played, you know, in high school, but they also were students that were involved in their all counties and area all states, and a number of times all state musicians. And so they bring that experience to the group along with their previous high school jazz ensemble experience, and some of them, you know, never had that experience, but because of the wealth of experience there and the kids willing to share it, it really makes for a great ensemble and a great team. And yes, they do carry that experience, and I've stayed in touch with a lot of students, you know, over the years. I've been doing this almost 20 years. This is my 19th year. Many of them who are now owners of, you know, businesses, doctors, lawyers, surgeons, are still playing. As a matter of fact, there's one student that I had, Steve Rossman, who is now the head of I believe one of the orthopedic sections at Rutgers, and he's still playing his alto saxophone. Matter of fact, he played his saxophone, hired a big band for his wedding, and played lead alto at a number of songs. You know, so it's really exciting to see the kids do that. But it really, they embrace the music, and I think it brings a unique component to their personality and what they bring to their job. And their careers that they have outside of music.
I want to touch briefly on the fundraising thing that you're doing now to build up that program and to keep that program strong. Can you take a couple of minutes to describe that?
One of the alumni, Ben Wood, who is the CEO of U Sport, which is a nationwide and I believe going to become worldwide corporation that deals in sportswear, a unique chemical composite of the material that they use, is a saxophone player who played in the band his entire time when he was at the university. He trying to, in terms of giving back and knowing sometimes the financial situation in the music department isn't always what we would hope it would be. You know, so he started a fundraiser, a crowdfunding through the university as an alumni to try to raise dollars to enhance the financial ability of the ensemble to do some upgrades in the room, make a better facility for the students there, but also have some dollars on hand to be able to bring in guest artists more frequently, to make that experience richer, to maybe raise some dollars to allow the band to travel, as some of our sports teams do, to some of the jazz festivals like at Penn State or Villanova and stuff like that. Yeah. Because the band is a high quality ensemble, which, you know, the kids would benefit from that experience, just like a team goes out and you play against another team, right? You know, you get something from that competition.
Well, cheerleaders in high school do it, and the bands do it.
Right, so, and it's a great experience. I remember in my own college career, the Potsdam Crane School of Music, we would go, you know, to Oswego or Syracuse to play and compete against other ensembles, and hearing other ensembles, you know, brings that perspective to what you're doing. Sure. It just enriches the whole experience and makes you a better player.
So to find out more about it, folks can go to the BU
they go to
website.
The alumni page of Binghamton University, and there's a crowdfunding page. If you go to their search window and type in crowdfunding, there's I think 3 or 4 crowdfunding opportunities there, albeit the Harvard Jazz Ensemble crowdfunding ended, I think, on the 24th. It's still open, you can still donate, sure. And we welcome any donations which are, you know, tax deductible, right. Which will help enrich and continue to provide an experience for university students that is a great thing.
Yeah. Now let's touch on a little bit of the history of jazz, and I don't mean to, we just have a few minutes, but I'm interested in how jazz moved from its rather gritty beginnings. You know, you go to Kansas City or New Orleans or Chicago, and you're going into back alleys, you're going into to clubs, smoke-filled. I mean, the images that we have from old movies, for example.
And they're still pervasive in some of the movies that have come out recently.
Yeah.
They're still not giving jazz a good name.
Yeah, the Chet Baker film I just saw on Netflix a couple of nights ago. Born to Be Blue was...
Well, let's face it, some of the jazz musicians, some of the jazz greats did succumb to some of the pitfalls of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and whatnot, but I think that's not unlike any other areas of life. It just seems to get really focused on, which sometimes takes away from the greatness of some of these musicians and the hard work that went into getting them to the place that they achieved in terms of the notoriety, the number of albums that they produced, the concerts that they performed. You know, everybody from Charlie Parker to Miles Davis, Billie Holiday, you know, Chet Baker, you know. But to answer your question, how do we get to where we are today in terms of?
Well, I was making that leap from the clubs into churches. I mean, playing jazz in churches.
Well, there are a number of musicians over the years that have, you know, made their inroads, so to speak. Dave Brubeck being one of those guys, you know, writing masses, you know, using, you know, jazz techniques and incorporating some of those things. And then guys like Bill Carter who become, you know, enamored with, you know, Dave Brubeck, and then taking his mixture of experiences and then bringing that to the Presbyterian hymnal, I think initially, and then expanding that to what we do now in terms of some of the concertizing throughout the year with Jazz Vespers, which has become a very popular thing, which, you know, was started, you know, with the whole John Coltrane, you know, the Church of John Coltrane out in California, with that whole service format, which is multi-denominational, embracing many people, bringing more people together. Also, you know, I think for the experience that I have is that bringing jazz into the church, not unlike some of the other musics, whether it be contemporary, you know, liturgical music, or, you know, other than organ, you know, based church music, gives people something else to latch onto, maybe helps people emote a different way. And I think it brings that same spirit and positiveness to the whole service, as long as it's done with, you know, kindness and respect and a lot of forethought.
I've heard Bill say that the frozen chosen in the pews get to melt a little bit, defrost.
Defrost a little
with
bit.
a little bit of jazz. And there's also that sense that if you're going to have a praise band in your church, maybe you ought to have a lament band too, because the Psalms are full of the blues. There's deep, deep, heartfelt lament and I think, I mean, any instrument can do that, but I think a saxophone that wails, I mean, just you've experienced that in playing. I watch you as you play, and you know, I picture you being kind of a laid-back. I don't know that you're introverted, but once you get that saxophone, you're just a wild man sometimes. But I watch
I hope it's not so crazy that, you know, it chases people out of the pews like that. But well, I think once we start playing, I am aware of the audience, but I'm also aware of what the group of musicians that I happen to be with, or if it's, you know, led by a group, what it is that we're trying to create in terms of an emotion through the music, to try to bring something to the audience that is one, palatable, but also maybe a little challenging, but not so out of the box where we're sitting there playing bebop solos for, you know, 8 and 10 choruses, but to give them the experience of, this is the song, this is my interpretation of that song, through improvisation and jazz techniques. And I think we're always trying to be respectful to the audience, but as we challenge them just a little bit. But I think jazz in the church, through the channels that Bill Carter is really presenting through the Presbyterian ministry, and some of the work that he's done across the country, has been really welcomed. And every place that I've played with that ensemble, and we're playing with some of the greatest jazz musicians as rhythm section people who play with Dave Liebman, who travel the world, who play with Betty Buckley, who play with T.S. Monk, and so these great people. But it's, say we're a merry band of musicians. It's a great experience, and I think not only for us but for the audience. And I think everywhere that we've played, it's been pretty welcomed.
Oh, it certainly has.
Overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
So
standing ovations in church is never a bad thing.
yeah, or can you play another one? Can you play another one?
Yes, that's right.
Sure.
Encore after encore. Our guest, if you've tuned in a little bit late, is Mike.